Hi, everybody. So I'll just wait for our first slide. So this is an image of Megan Pelham. And, and today it was announced that Megan is an Archibald finalist. But not for the first time. Megan is actually a second-time Archibald finalist. Yet Megan is an anomaly in our art world because artists with intellectual disability are actually locked out of Australia's professional art world. So I started working with Megan about 15 years ago. And when I first met Megan, I actually felt really uncomfortable. I met Megan at a recreational creative program for adults with disability. As a recent art school graduate, I'd offered to volunteer in this program. I was sat down next to Megan, and pretty quickly I realised that I was a little bit out of my depth. You see, when Megan started to speak to me, I couldn't understand what she was saying, and I felt this really stark sense of difference between us. Until I had met Megan, I'd actually had very little contact with people with intellectual disability. And when I couldn't understand what Megan was saying, I didn't know what to do. And to be honest, I felt really embarrassed. People with intellectual disability are some of the most marginalised and isolated in our society, with a nearly 70% unemployment rate. And I suspect that many neurotypical people like me feel uncomfortable when they first meet a person with intellectual disability. And I suspect that this challenge in communication is what leads many people with intellectual disability to end up feeling isolated and dismissed. So many people with intellectual disability struggle with mainstream modes of communication that includes speech, reading, and writing. Yet many are actually incredibly fluent visual communicators. The parent of another Studio A artist has told me that her son speaks through painting. And indeed, it was through art that Megan and I connected. So on the day that I met Megan, I sat there feeling awkward for a couple of minutes. And then I looked down at the page where Megan was drawing. Her pen glided across the page, and out of her pen emerged these beautiful lyrical birds. They were alive and animated. And dancing around her drawings was Megan's beautiful, romantic, hand-drawn love poetry. I leaned in. I wanted to know more about this young woman. So I love poetry and I love drawing. And suddenly I had a mode of connecting with Megan, and my sense of awkwardness started to dissolve. So Megan went on to show me her vast body of artwork. She's a woman who draws at home, she draws on the weekend. Her numerous bags were filled with drawings. And what I realised was that Megan worked with more focus and passion than half the people that I'd gone to art school with. Yet Megan had had no opportunity to develop her talent, and Megan had no opportunity to exhibit her artwork. So despite her, and this was despite her clear work ethic and talent, Megan and I were about the same age, and I realised that if Megan didn't have Down syndrome, she would have gone on to art school like me. Yet here was Megan, unemployed, not recognised as an artist, and having no opportunity to show her work. Meeting Megan inspired me to wonder, why was it that I never saw the art of artists with intellectual disability in the trendy galleries that I went to? With this question in mind, I went on to do further postgraduate research, and I did a Churchill Scholarship as well, investigating this question. What became apparent to me is that it's not a lack of artistic talent that is creating this block. It's a structural issue. You see, if you can't read or write, if you can't send emails, if you can't create a CV, if you don't go to university and meet your professional network, then you're locked out of professional systems. I'm going to read a quote here, which is from the 2023 National Cultural Report. Almost 1 in 5 Australians live with disability, yet Australia's diversity is not fully reflected in our arts. Artists with disability continue to be underrepresented. And so it was that we started Studio A with the mission to address this injustice, to ensure that artists with intellectual disability are seen, heard, respected, and paid fairly for their work. Megan is a Studio A artist. And I think I can feel confident in saying that I think our systems are working. Today it was announced that Megan is one of 4 Studio A artists who are Archibald finalists. Megan's subject is the curatorial director of the National Portrait Gallery, Isabel Parker Phillip. Megan and Isabel have worked professionally together for a number of years, and they have forged a firm friendship. Megan, I think you can tell, is pretty excited about attending the Archibald opening next week, where she'll be drinking Sauvignon Blancs and networking with her peers. Megan now earns a consistent income as an artist, and she has transitioned from someone whose artwork was never seen into an artist achieving the highest of cultural accolades. And what is most important is that Megan is blazing a trail for other artists with disability. She's breaking through cultural barriers about what is expected for people with disability. Studio A is achieving this kind of outcome for 18 artists, yet there is a much greater need. Studio A is currently at capacity, yet every week we receive emails from emerging artists with disability and from art facilitators wanting to access our support. Yet, there is actually nowhere we can refer these people to. There are very few programs like Studio A in Australia, and there is no training guide that is set up in order for people to develop studios like Studio A. So I'm going to refer to another quote here from Australia's 2023 National Cultural Report. It says that training and professional development opportunities designed specifically for artists with disability are limited, and there are barriers to formal education. There is a pressing need to take action on these issues following a long history. So, imagine if we could take the methodologies that we use at Studio A and structure them to support artists with disability nationally. And imagine if we could take the strong visual language that Studio A artists use and make this central in this communication. This is what we want to do with our Creative Manifesto project. We want to create a toolkit and a resource guide that showcases the artistic processes that make Studio A artwork successful. And we want to take this toolkit and design it so that it can be used in institutions like universities and TAFEs. We want to design it so that it can be used to create more Studio A's, more supported studios. It will be designed specifically to suit art, education, and disability students. A key part of the resource guide is that we want it to be accessible. We do not want it to just be full of words. We want it to be filled with our artists' visual language. We want it to be made by artists with intellectual disability for artists with intellectual disability. This project will be created in stages. We'll be recruiting an education consultant to ensure that we get the format right, and we'll have a marketing strategy to ensure that we reach the right audience. Today, what we are seeking is around $20,000. It's about $3,000 for each Studio A artist. What this will do is ensure that Studio A artists lead the development of this resource guide. It will ensure that it is their visual material that is central in the resource guide and that they are paid fairly for their work. This Creative Manifesto would be the first artist and disability-led training guide of its kind in Australia. It would facilitate opportunities nationally for people with disability to move from exclusion to active participation in Australian life. And it would pave a pathway for more people like Megan to become cultural leaders and demonstrate that with the right support systems, people with disability can speak for themselves in powerful and compelling ways. Thank you.
Thank you so much.